what is the Fed going to do? Joining us from Philadelphia, Professor Kent Smetters, a former Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Treasury, joins us with more analysis. Again, it's good to have you back on the program. So the Federal Reserve, as Bernanke says, prepared to do more. But what's the probability of QE3?
I would put the probability right now about one third. I don't think they're likely to do it, but if things do worsen in Europe, and we're getting some hints of that happening right now, and they believe that that will have a big impact on the U.S. economy, then I think the probability goes up. I don't think the energy issue will be enough to tip them, but I think European worsening could actually be what becomes the tip factor.
Now, what I found interesting, Kent, is you think that Operation Twist will continue after June 30th. Why do you think that the Fed's going to embark on this path?
Right. I think that's the more likely scenario, is that they're going to continue the Operation Twist after it officially expires in June 30th. And the reason why is because it's a more gradual, is less likely to trigger inflation worries. And it's already what they're doing. They could, in fact, first see, if they let it expire, if the long rates increase. But if they do, I have absolutely no doubt that they will step in and continue the program.
Okay, well, do you agree with the FOMC and their expectations of economic growth to moderate, they say, and remain moderate over the coming quarters, but then eventually it's going to pick up gradually? In fact, they've increased their economic growth outlook as well.
That's true, but they're really modest increases. I basically agree with the majority of the FOMC members who believe that inflation will be still pretty moderate up through 2014. But my own view on economic growth is that it's not going to just be pretty modest in the short term, but it will probably be that way for several years. And so I don't think that this is a 1 year or 2 year issue. I think we're in the situation for the next 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, Ben Bernanke is saying that, again, he's vowing that he's going to keep rates exceptionally low until at least mid-2014. But some dissension, Richmond Fed President Jeffrey Lacker, in fact, the two other non-voting members also saying that, hey, we got to raise rates a little bit earlier than that, and let's not put a timeline to it.
That's right. And what's interesting is some of the other dissenters are well-known PhD-trained economists. And in particular, the head of the Minnesota and as well as the Philadelphia Fed, who aren't currently voting members, have made pretty strong statements recently that they're concerned about inflation picking up before 2014. I'm not on their same page, but nonetheless, they are very prominent voices on the FOMC committee. Again, not voting right now, but they eventually will.
Now, Kent, one more question for you, but do you think that we could have the Fed raising interest rates in 2013? I mean, it's a very mixed economy right now. You have corporate America doing really well, coming out and beating expectations. Durable goods orders are down, so manufacturing still slogging at this point, and consumers are buying. So how do you read how the U.S. is doing?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's mixed signals. Why we still had certainly in the short run the recession and those issues, and so my personal outlook is that the Fed's not going to take much action to allow interest rates to increase until at least the end of 2014. Obviously, there's still the much longer-term problem, and that is we have enormous projections of debt in the United States. That's also true in Europe, as well as true in the United Kingdom. And so the long-term problems are still there, and we're not really focused on those right now. But they will continue to stretch out this anemic recovery, I think, for quite a long time.
Okay, Kent, it's always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time today.